Welcome, everyone, to this edition of Tools for Awakening, part of the Awareness podcast. And I am Cyndi, and I am here with
Rona.
And to say that I feel blessed and grateful to go through this series with you doesn't do the experience I'm having justice. Without the asking for these types of teachings looked at in this way, they wouldn't be coming through me. And the sitting and opening and preparing for these teachings and reviewing them, Rona and I reviewing them, is a real blessing. It's creating more stillness, more expansiveness, more openness in whatever this experience is. And so, with an open heart and some tears, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. Thank you for your contribution to this universal rise in consciousness that is being experienced and that is taking place through this work. Anything to add there, Rona?
Yeah, I'd like to welcome everybody to week 5. I'm having an extraordinarily delicious time with this as well. It's just, feeding my soul so much. I'm so grateful to have these teachings and the opportunity to bring some clarity. I'm a student right along with the rest of our listening audience. And I love the idea that we can share in these ideas and concepts and turn them into the knowing, the knowing of the truth.
So in previous episodes, we looked at honesty, the importance of the pause, trust. Then last month, we touched on gentleness, being kind to ourselves, being easy on ourselves. And in this episode, it's interesting because the title of this episode comes right from A Course in Miracles and the characteristics of the teachers of God, and that is tolerance. The way we approach it in sitting in current experience and what is most useful may feel a little bit different than this little section in A Course in Miracles, yeah? So, I'm going to begin with like a Webster's definition of this word tolerance. The ability or willingness to tolerate something, in particular, the existence of opinions or behavior that one does not necessarily agree with. On the surface, that sounds painful, doesn't it, Rona?
It does. It sounds like conflict.
It certainly does. It certainly sounds, or what it brings up for me is being a little kid and having, a parent or an authority figure tell me to eat it even if I don't like it, or be quiet now, or, you know,
Mhm.
this whole kind of sense of pushing against, this sense that it's something that I don't want, right?
Absolutely. I feel like there's an element of I'm enduring something. You know, there's not a lot of joy when I'm have to endure someone or something that underneath I'm totally irritated with.
So, if we sink into this for a minute, based on everything that we study here within the Teachers of God Foundation and everything we've done up to this point, what lights up in this definition of tolerance is this concept of opinions, and how clearly this definition points to a belief that there is a world out there that needs to change so that I could feel good here. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Which brings us to this concept of judgment, this idea that I have an opinion that is different than another's, that I am right, you are wrong. There is an up and a down, a good and a bad, and a gradient all in between. And all of the teachings that have been lighting up for us and that we have been pointing to here all indicate that none of that is true, right? So right off the bat, when we're an opinion or a judgment or this belief that something needs to change so that I can feel good, we are not trusting the teachings.
That's, that's one of the quotes that I found. Judgment without self-deception is impossible. So, I mean, clearly right there, when I'm judging, I'm thinking there's a you and a me and a story. I'm getting
Right.
all caught up.
So all judgment feeds this belief, this concept that what I am is not only different from what I see, but what I am needs to somehow control the world out there so that I can be safe and okay inside my little world.
Yes. If they would just do what I thought was right, I'd be comfortable.
Yep. Yep. So essentially this concept, and I'm going to tell you this right off the bat, Ron and I spent a fair amount of time talking before we turned the recorder on, and where we got to, and where I'd like to say it before we get to the end, is this idea of tolerance as a characteristic of the teachers of God. The way it's alive in me right now is only temporary. That the promise of this teaching is that as we give our willingness to lay down all judgment, tolerance becomes a non-issue, because all tolerance states is that there is a judgment that something should be different, and I'm willing to allow that to be there without attacking the world outside. So it's a good step. It's a good bridge position to be in. But ultimately, it will become a non-issue. It will sort of disappear. Yeah. So there are steps. Are you interested, Rona? Should we go through these steps?
Well, I can't wait for you to share these steps. They're wonderful.
Is there anything you'd like to say before we begin?
No, I think that we're going to hit upon some things as we go through these steps. So let us continue from here.
All right. So step number 1. And I've got to tell you, so I'm not going to pretend that the world doesn't occasionally challenge me. So I'm living these steps. That's the first thing I want to say before I go in. Number two, I can also let you know that these practices are working in a marvelous, miraculous way. The thoughts, the judgments in this space and this experience are thinning. And as they do, it becomes easier and easier and faster to move through this kind of process as it appears. It's the awareness of truth is becoming stronger and stronger in this experience all the time. And Rana, from talking to you, my sense is that that is your experience as well.
It's definitely my experience. I guess I wouldn't describe it as like the thinning that Cyndi is talking about. For me, it's just this obvious noticing now. There is no denying anymore when I'm not in alignment. You know, there's no denial. And I absolutely know it's not because of something out there, you know, and so I can bring these practices with me into my daily life and just, you know, notice as soon as it happens that the gig is up basically on the judgment for me.
Yeah. All right. So what I invite us all to do, you too, Rona, is allow a story, a worldly story that seems to be triggering something other than peace in you to just rise into your awareness. Allow the discomfort if it's there, and allow it to come up. You know, it's so cool to know that fear, discomfort, physical pain won't kill you because what you are is eternal. The fear of feeling the pain is one of the things that slows this path down. So getting really comfortable, feeling uncomfortable, or being with whatever arises is an extraordinary place to be.
Yes. So, do it uncomfortable. Just do it uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So with that being said, step one, and sometimes there are those of us, and there are stories where you live here for a while and it's an interesting place. Take no steps in the world so that you feel better inside. I didn't say don't take any steps in the world, because steps are taken in the world all the time. But give them no meaning, A. And B, don't do something out there to feel better in here. And I literally even wrote on my notes here, tie your hands behind your back or to the chair or something if you have to, because there are moments when this is really, really hard. You know, whether it's a money thing or a relationship thing or a health thing, if the fear is alive and vibrant in you and you don't know if you can stand the way it feels, you have to do something to feel better, don't.
Yes. And the type of things that I, as a body mind, will do is if say there's a grievance, I can't stand that discomfort, or I should say, I used to not be able to stand that discomfort. So I would want to make an additional phone call. You know, maybe I would get a little manipulative. Oh, they're not pleased with me. I'll send them a little gifty. You know, all these things in the world that I do to control this discomfort, you know, to make it better somehow. And so those are just some examples that I thought I'd throw out there.
Yeah. Or this idea, you know, I don't know how the kids are doing. I got to call them. And then you look inside, why are you picking up this phone? Is it to feel better inside? Is it because you believe that a good mother will XYZ? And really, there's something amazing in waiting until there's just a natural impulse to take an action. It always happens. The conditioned mind, the pain, will tell you it doesn't happen, that you have to control the circumstance and do something. It's just not true.
I have
So,
another example of in financial circumstances, you know, there's a discomfort, right? That I think I don't have enough. And what I'm learning to do is to sit with that discomfort and ask myself some questions. Is everything paid today? You know, I don't need to rob Peter to pay Paul today because I'm afraid that something's going to be necessary in 7 days, 30 days, 6 months. I'm really learning to sit in that trust that I need do nothing right now. Don't panic, because that's where I personally have made bad, panicky decisions,
yeah.
you know?
So, you know, you're on step 4, right?
Oh, shoot. I just
Step
can't help myself.
looking at the thoughts, you know, that's
Yeah.
step 4. Step
Okay.
1
Reel
is
me back in.
literally step 1 really is just be willing not to take a step in the world to feel better inside.
Right.
And if you don't understand that, watch what happens. There's an example I heard once. It's like, friends, I used to think, here's a great, easy example. I used to have a belief, a way of what a kind person does. If somebody calls and leaves me a message, I have to call them back. If someone sends me a text, any decent being would respond to it. When I stopped and got still, and somebody called that I was not inspired to speak to, left me a message, I got real still. I did this sort of pause and look, why am I calling them back? And when I realized that I was calling them back just because there's guilt about not returning a call, because that's what a nice person does, I stopped returning those calls. And then when there was a natural rising to make a call, I would. But I've learned in a way that is sort of still blowing Cyndi's mind that I don't have to return every phone call. That I don't need to react as if, you know, the world was real, and if someone's reaching me, I have to reach back. It's not necessarily true.
That's fabulous how you saw that and uncovered that guilt.
It happens when you move into step 2, right? You're ready for step 2. So step 1 was literally just, it's really just a decision. I am not going to take an action in the world to feel better inside. Actions will still be taken, right? If you need to go to the bank, if you need to pay a bill, you're going to do those things. But the purpose is not to feel better inside. There's a rising and you pay the bill. Step 2, you're going to rest from the story. It's the pause. It's the pause. So we're making the decision. So a phone call comes in. There's this inner, do I really want to, is it the right thing to do to call them back? And there's a sense that no. And then in the pause, in the resting from the story, and the asking, why would I call them back? And then there's this idea, well, that's what a good person does, and guilt if I don't. That's when you just allow all that to come up. You go, wait a minute. I've made the decision not to respond because there's inner guilt or anger or frustration or I have to do this or else, I'll be attacked or people will think poorly of me. Those are all, making outer steps to feel better inside. So you pause and you rest from the story and you just allow, the emotions, the feelings, the sensations to rise.
Yeah, I'll tell you, the first few times that I allowed that, I did nothing and I paused. I mean, that was a visceral feeling. It was like tight and constricted and it was moving up. And so now I've come to understand that's just part of this burning out process. In my experience, I don't know if it'll be that way for everybody else, but there was a real visceral response there. And I realized that I had been shoving that down forever as I get caught up in the story and think I have to fix, change, and do something. So tamping that energy down can't be good.
Think of it like, what if you have multi-layers in your house, right? If there is like asbestos behind the walls of your house or some sort of toxic fume, and literally you're living in this house with these poisons in the walls. And when you don't look at them or you continue to just patch up the wall, those poisons are easing or they're slowly filling or they filled the air quality in the room you're living in, and they color your experience continuously.
Yeah.
When something like somebody punches a hole in the wall and it gets real big, like you're having trouble breathing or something. In this sort of metaphor, if you're literally just attempting to make things okay, you would patch the wall.
Yeah.
And it would go back to that kind of slow poison.
Yes.
If instead you put on the gas mask or whatever, and you're willing to sort of let that if you allow the hole to remain there, the poison eases out of that part of the wall and transmutes.
Yes.
And you're feeling uncomfortable while it happens, but then once it's gone, it's gone.
Yes.
And that little patch no longer colors your experience.
Wonderful.
Do you see that picture? Do you want to add to it?
Oh, I just think that's great. That's a great visual for me. And yeah, we just keep ourselves sick by not allowing.
Yeah. So step 3, so there are occasions and it becomes easier and sometimes that's as far as you need to go, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, somebody called me and there's a thought, I have to call them back. And then you pause and you look and, oh, there's guilt if I don't. And you say, well, I'm not going to do anything in the world to ease this feeling of guilt inside. Because guilt always comes from this belief that I am not what I see. And all the work that we're doing here, if you're listening to this podcast, then there's some level of acceptance that the truth is true and we're all one and consciousness is all there is. We're not going through all of that, but there is an assumption in my space, yours too, Rona.
Yes.
That anyone who's hanging out with us in episode 5 of the Tools for Awakening Awareness podcast has some level of acceptance that all sense of a me in a world I have to protect myself from is not true. So it may just be enough to allow the addiction to taking steps in the world to feel better inside. You tie your hands and then you pause and you rest from the story and you allow it to burn and transmute. Sometimes that's all you have to do.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes that's it. And it's kind of really key for me to say that out loud, because the practices after this can also become a habit or an addiction. And so we don't want to get into the addictive habit of being good spiritual students who have to do self-inquiry over and over again.
Right. That would be a ego thing, I think, and like analysis paralysis kind of thing.
Yeah. Step
But
3.
it keeps coming up.
Yep. Now we're going on.
Then we're going on because, you know, I can only pause and allow it to dissolve 1 or 2 times. If it's still coming, there's something else there.
Okay. So we have taken no step in the world.
Right.
And we have allowed the intensity of any emotional or physical sensation to burn itself out. And we find that we are not in joy and peace and quiet. There's the thoughts of it come up, the feeling that something that I'm not good or I should be doing it different. It's coming up. We're seeing it. It's coloring our space. It's distracting us. Step 3, again, is a choice. It's the willingness to accept that the only place that this is going to get resolved is basically inside, you know, in the thought, mind, programming of who I am separate, that it is accepting that that is the only place that one can heal this, is the inner work, not the outer work. So again, it's a choice. Doesn't take but a moment.
No, that's a pretty quick step, is to have that choice.
But it's
a turning point, though, because now instead of looking out there with any sort of blame, I'm turning it in.
And I'm saying this for me, for this programming right now. There are no exceptions to this teaching. It's an all, and in many ways, it's an all or nothing deal. And as long as you cherish one problem as separate or special or one kind of thought system, it will grow in you like a weed. So it's really, we heal it one thought, one moment at a time. Our intention to heal it all, it's a decision. And it's kind of important for me to remember this. For many, many years, I kept my children out of this kind of philosophy, right? And to some extent, my financial circumstance, and I'm not alone. Some people pull their health or their marriage, or yes, I'm a very good spiritual student. I accept that the world out there is not real, and boy, does my husband drive me crazy. I would kill him if I could. You know, it's
right.
There appears to be the cherishing of something that allows this belief in separation to continue to flourish, and the willingness to let it all go. I'm not saying that means it all goes at once, because for some it may. You know, the holy instant will occur in an instant. And from a linear standpoint, I've been on this journey for 20 years and things keep coming up. But I give my willingness to heal them all now.
Yes.
So now we're on step 4, Rona. So we're in this place in a storyline, you know, it's like a dog with a bone, right? So now we get to look. And we say yes to some sort of inquiry. the key that I would like to bring out to you is it doesn't matter which process is used. If you get still, you know which one will work for you. It could be Byron Katie's The Work is a great way to look at thoughts. Diedrich Welzak's six steps. If you're Regina Dawn Akers' root cause inquiry, they all work. If you're more pure than that, pure, you could just go to some of the, well, whose problem is this, and you could just simply do the Ramana Maharshi type of who am I and what does that have to do with the problem. Literally, this step is really just, okay, I let the intensity of the emotions wash over me. I accept that it's an inside job. My hands are tied. Action in the world is rising and it's happening, but I am willing to take no outer step whose sole purpose it is to feel better inside. I am willing to remove the walls that hold the toxic thoughts and beliefs and ideas in place. I want to be free from this bondage of who I think I am, separate from what I see. And from that space, we're not here, at least not in this podcast right now, to teach a specific self-inquiry. But this is the step. This is the place where we turn around and look at those thoughts or beliefs or ideas that have been holding this particular storyline in place.
And
thoughts, ideas.
Suffering.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Believing thoughts that what I am is not what I see creates all of our suffering. Yeah. And then the hardest thing in the world. Sorry. But once these thoughts are identified, right? What do you do with them? How do you fix it? I have this belief that what I am is less than, is bad, is in danger, and I see it and I don't care what the word is. How do I fix it, Rona? Tell me.
You don't. That's the key.
Awareness alone is curative.
Yeah.
You go back to this rest and pausing stage. That's it. You see the thought. And when you do this practice, whatever it is, slowly enough, there's an inner feeling, when the belief or the idea is hit upon through this inquiry. And when it is, embrace it, hold it, and allow truth to correct it. Truth will correct all errors in my mind. And all you have to do is withdraw your believing attention. Rest in the pause, in awareness, in the stillness, and watch.
I love to use the idea of the holy instant and the borderland right in this part. For me, it's seeing, what the illusion and the truth side by side. Somewhere I'm still believing there's a you and a me and a story, and it's hard. And the truth is not that. The truth is truth, like Cyndi likes to say, There's beingness and oneness, and this is just what's arising in that space.
Yeah. And that's it. There's all sorts of ways we can complicate this, but there's no reason to. This teaching is that simple.
Yeah.
What would you like to add, Rona?
I want to encourage people to take a situation, soon and try this.
Like now?
Yeah, sit with it, do nothing, you know. Search your mind. Do you have a grievance right now? And you're not bad if you do. These things come up so they can be healed, and try this little process on it,
No steps in the world to feel better inside. Pause, rest from the story, allow it to rise up in you. Be willing to let that be enough. If it's not enough, accept that the upset is coming from a thought, a belief, a grievance, an unforgiveness, whatever word you want, but accept that whatever's going on is an inside job. Use some sort of self-inquiry, whatever lights up for you, to bring that belief, thought, idea to awareness. And then once it's there, go back to the pause.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
Would love to hear some comments on how this is working for you.
Yeah. And that's, I have nothing else to say other than I love us.
I love us too. I love that we talked about tolerance, and it seems like it's a real step towards, awakening.
So the guidance is to leave it at this. Thank you for being here. We will be back next month with another edition of Tools for Awakening. But if you haven't noticed, they are all in some ways the same. They all sort of feed on each other. So though you don't need to listen to any of the other podcasts to practice this, I still recommend, if you haven't listened to episodes 1, 2, 3, and 4 yet, go back and have some fun with them. We're keeping these podcasts on the shorter side, so that you could spend some time with them. We're easy to find. So if you have any questions, please ask them. And also, listen to the other podcasts in the Awareness podcast series. Each one is better than the next. And that's it for now. I love us.
Thank you, Cyndi. I love us too.
All right. Bye-bye for now.
Bye, everyone.